Today I'm literally sitting in the shadow of those people who always tell us to be guided by reason, to be reasonable, to be reasoned. And sometimes that can feel a little lonely because it can be quite daunting to look up to people like those, but to see ourselves surrounded by people who are just like us and not those that we look up to. They seem so far and few between, and we just don't know if we're doing the right thing, if we're examining ourselves, if we're guided by true reason, or if everything's an illusion, if we are just unknowing players in some random game. Because everything that we're taught, everything that we're shown by the age of 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 is that we have a name, that we have a family, that we have parents, that we will have friends, and that they all have expectations on us, from us. And we go a whole life trying to fulfill their expectations, which have become indistinguishable from our expectations of ourselves. And just like those great people who, with good reason, tell us to be guided by reason, we do use reason to achieve these goals, to achieve these expectations, to achieve these obligations. But we never ask ourselves if we're wishing for the right things, if we're trying for the right things, and if we're using reason reasonably. No, we all want to be reasonable people. We all want to be rational people. And so we do our best to reach those goals that we think are best for us in that rational, reasonable way. To make our lives easier, to make our lives better, to make the lives easier and better of those around us, of those we love. But once we truly go into the path of reason, just like our ancient philosopher friends advise us, it doesn't take long, or maybe sometimes it takes long, but to realize that even though we've been using reason, we haven't really been guided by reason, or rather that we use reason only to achieve our goals, but not to pick our goals. And that's the thing with reason. You can look around yourself. The people who make the most amount of money, let's say, who achieve some of the highest offices and positions of power in the world, are often those people that we don't want to have anything to do with, that we think have lied in the past, are lying now, have cheated people, have deceived people. We almost take it for granted that, for example, people like politicians need to do that to even get to positions like that. And we've been taking that for totally granted. But to get there, they did have to use reason. They did have to really think deeply about things. They came up with their strategies and their words, their speeches, their plans. They've used reason to get there. They did not get there in a random, irrational way. So it goes to show you that using reason does not necessarily make someone a good person. And it certainly doesn't make someone a happy person. It doesn't make someone a fulfilled person. It doesn't necessarily give us meaning. We can apply a reasoned approach and reasonable methodology to any goal that we have, really. And what we often miss out on is that it's not just our methodology, our strategy that has to be guided by reason, but our goals as well. And one of the biggest things, in my opinion, that keeps us from realizing that our goals are not really our own, that they've been imposed on us by others, by society, by our family, by our friends, by our colleagues, whatever that might be. Culture. We need to overcome culture. And this is not only the culture of our country, the culture of our religion, but even the culture of ourselves, our own personal, individual culture. What have we adopted? What traditions, what views, what beliefs have we adopted? When have we adopted them? And why have we adopted them? As soon as these things become a part of culture, we stop questioning them. And we start doing things just because they've always been done that way. And our societal norms, our culture, is often what keeps us from questioning these things. And if we ever want to become free individuals, happy individuals, individuals that have meaning in their lives, and that have goals that are actually guided by reason and fulfilled by reason and maintained by reason, then we need to overcome culture in the sense that we need to start questioning it, only to make sure that we're doing the things that we're doing out of good reason, and that we endorse those things. Doing this, what I realized, and what I said in some other videos too, is that truly selfless acts come from truly selfish motivations. And what I mean by that, and it sounds paradoxical, I know, but what I mean by that is simply that we need to have our own unique personal connections to things. We need to see the reason in why we're doing something, and it needs to relate to us personally. We need to find personal reasons, personal meaning, and personal motivations in doing anything at all. Not just things that are directly concerning ourselves, but even, like I said, acts that are usually considered to be selfless, or acts that don't even involve us directly, such as traditions within a greater culture. If we don't find our own personal, unique ways and reasons and meanings within those things, we will not be able to do them, or at least we won't be able to do them for the reason that they were intended. And that in itself is an irrational thing to do. That in itself defeats the purpose. And everything that we're trying to do out of love comes to be done out of a sense of duty. And that's not love. If we participate in our family's traditions, in our own personal traditions, in our culture's traditions, in our religion's traditions, just for other people, we'll come to resent the act itself and even the people who we're doing it with, because it becomes an obligation and it becomes limiting to ourselves, to our own freedom. And after all, isn't that why religion should be practiced? Isn't that why friendship should be practiced? Isn't that why traditions should be practiced? To gain more freedom and more meaning in life, and not less. But this is exactly what we do when we participate in culture. Again, being personal culture, religious culture, national culture, family culture. When we participate in these things just out of a sense of duty, then it becomes the opposite of what it itself would like to be in your life. And so with everything, we need to find the why, and we need to find the reason, and we need to find the reason in a reasoned way, to make it our own and to maintain it. And the only way to do that is to ask why. Not in an interrogating fashion, not with any kind of emotion behind it, but with reason behind it, and saying, why should I do this? And if we come up with a good reason, not only to keep doing it, but to double down, because if we've found something good to do, and it's reasonable, and it's out of love, and it furthers us and others, then why not do as much of it as we can? But vice versa, if we don't find good reasons to do what we've been doing out of habit, out of obligation, our whole lives, then don't we have the most to gain from stopping that immediately, from doing as little of it as possible? And that's what it's all about, just to live in a considered way, in a reasonable way, in a reasoned way, guided by reason, not only in how we do things, but why we do things. One last thing before we end the video, I wanted to end it with a quote from Seneca, our ancient Stoic friend, philosopher friend. Of course, giving quotes from him has become somewhat of a custom, you might say. And it's from letter 37, which is also the letter we're reading in our Seneca book club this week, and for a good reason. He says, "If you wish to make all things subject to you, make yourself subject to reason." And see, this is why we call such people friends, even though they've been dead for thousands of years and we can never even have the opportunity to meet them anymore. They're still our friends. It goes to show you, even people who don't even know us have no expectations of us, and certainly are not people like who call us and say, hey, we're supposed to be friends, so we're supposed to spend a lot of time together and we're supposed to do this and that together, and give us obligations like that. No, we call these people friends because they give us truth, because they give us the insights that they worked so hard in their lives doing the work of life to gain, and they're sharing it freely because they want us to have them too. They care about us without even knowing us. How impersonal yet personal at the same time. And this is why true friendship has no obligations. And when I say friendship, I don't just mean friends, but also partners of any kind, family members, colleagues, anything. True friendship makes no obligations, makes no requirements. And it does not do things just because they've always been done that way, or because others expect them, or because the cultural societal norms expect them to be a certain way. No. True friends are friends based on truth and beauty and meaning. And this is also why we study philosophy. Certainly not because anyone requires it of us, not because it's chic or because it's the cultural societal demands on us. No, we do it because it adds truth to our lives. It adds meaning. It adds beauty. It adds understanding. And as we've seen today, it adds the true understanding of reason.